Preparing to live stream. Awesome. All right, you guys, we are live streaming on YouTube. We got about 1 minute before we start. Just a moment here. And so our web guy is going to get us going on the website. I'm so excited to be working with you guys today. This is so cool, I tell you. You know, I had kind of that rock star moment with Laura when I first met her at Unity of Kent. And I had been telling people how awesome her music is and buy her CDs. And then afterwards, she handed me like a gift set of every CD she's ever made. And I was like, oh, fangirl moment.
Oh, I remember that. Oh my gosh.
It had a little ribbon on it and everything. I kept that ribbon for the longest time. We got about 1 more minute till we start for really reals.
Sweet.
But we are, wow, we're in 2 different states. But you're almost in your own state, Cindy, because you're on Anderson Island, which is like sovereign. Here we go. It is 10 o'clock. All right. Hey, you guys. Welcome to Unity of Tacoma. We are an online community with a physical presence right here in Tacoma, Washington. And I'm so glad that you have joined us today. This is a very exciting day. Very happy to introduce our speaker and our singer. Laura Berman is our musician today. I am so excited to have you with us. It's been years since we worked together. And Cindy Akana, Unity of Tacoma favorite, thank you for being with us today. And I'm just going to do an invocation. No, I'm going to do Unity update. All right, here we go. Unity update, you guys. This is actually a really important update because this is my last week as your ministry coordinator. I'm still going to be around at Unity of Tacoma. I'll be doing the emceeing for our Sunday services while we train other people coming in. And I will still be around as a guest speaker as needed. But this is but I'll be doing it on a volunteer basis. I'll be doing all of the office work on a volunteer basis. And then the speaker just as a guest speaker. And this is part of the transition that we've been working on. And I can't even begin to tell you how exciting it's been to be a part of Unity of Tacoma in such a way as you've allowed me to be, and to do so through the big technology shift that we've had. That was pretty gosh darn amazing. Why don't we just take a moment for prayer? I want to just invite everyone, just breathe in, breathe out. Find that yummy place within where you feel fully centered. That place that remembers that there is only one life, that life is good, that life is God, that life is my life and your life right here, right now. That life is the life expressing as Cindy and Laura, as we step into this time of fellowship, this time of connection, this time of doing church. And I know that we are fully and completely supported by the creative life that is the life of spirit as it expresses through each and every one of us. And so it is.
Amen.
Amen. So Laura, I believe I'm going to invite you to do your first song.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So good to be here. Who are you in your mind? So concerned with your own space and time. And you feel like there's something more. You hear voices from your past saying who you are and how you should act. But you only want to close the door. Feeling so confined, you're searching for a sign. tell you where you belong. Surrender to the moment, yeah. 'Cause in a moment, it will be gone. It's letting go of what you can't control anymore. Awaken to the presence, yeah. The only place you can do no wrong. There is nothing else, so forgive yourself and know that you are born in this moment, yeah. You are born. Cluttered thoughts in your head about events that have not happened yet, and wanna turn the whole thing. Stop the movie and break the reel. Start all over and make a new deal. Well, maybe you've had enough. Ooh, you've had enough. You're never really here. And all of your fears keep you tangled and alone. Surrender to the moment, yeah. 'Cause in a moment, it will be gone. It's the letting go of what you can't control anymore, yeah. Awaken to the presence, yeah. The only place you can do no wrong. There is nothing else, so forgive yourself and know that you are born in this moment, yeah. You are born in this moment. Oh, you are born in this moment. Surrender to the moment, yeah. 'Cause in a moment it will be gone. It's the letting go of what you can't control anymore. Awaken to the presence. Oh, the only place you can do no wrong. You can do no wrong. There is nothing else. So forgive yourself and know that you are born. We are born in this moment. Yeah. You are born in this moment. Yes, you are.
That was absolutely fabulous, Laura. Thank you very, very much. We could just end right there. The series that Unity of Tacoma has been doing is Drive to Thrive. And so I think this is the last one of this series, and I am talking about thriving despite our emotions. If one everyday aspect could get in the way of thriving, I think it would be emotions. And although emotions don't actually deter thriving, they can certainly hamper our ability to thrive when we don't know how to deal with them lovingly. And I say lovingly because emotions are a part of us and not some external force we need to handle or control. I'm going to share a brief video that often evokes a variety of emotions. And while watching the video, I would like you to try to notice the different emotions that arise within you. So I'm going to share my video. Just pausing for a minute for you to think about just analyzing the emotions that you were feeling during that video. What came up? Joy, maybe at the beginning. Fear, confusion, surprise, sadness, gratitude, something else. I think it is very common for folks to view emotions as either good or bad emotions. But I don't think that there are any bad emotions. Certainly there are emotions that don't make us feel good, but they're actually unpleasant, but that doesn't make them bad. To thrive despite our emotions, I think it is helpful to see emotions as pleasant versus unpleasant rather than good versus bad. Emotions are simply signals. They are telling us something about ourselves or our situation. So for some examples, I want to go back to the opening video. And in the beginning, when I watched this, I felt joy. So why? Because I like it when families play together and they're enjoying each other. And the way the video is set up, it's like, oh, the family's enjoying themselves. I like the smiles on their faces. It brought joy to me. Then I felt fear. Why? Because I was concerned with the look on the dad's face when he turned back, and you could see that something bad was about to happen. I got lost in the make-believe story, like, oh my gosh, something bad is going to happen. And then I felt surprised because I didn't expect the daughter with the angel wings and her mother to rush to her dad's aid. I felt sadness because with the dramatic music and the glittery pieces flying everywhere, when he was supposedly supposed to crash, I was reminded of a bad car crash. And I don't like car crashes, especially when people get hurt. And in the end, I found myself feeling gratitude. Why? Because I liked how the mother and the daughter rushed to secure the man's safety. They were reenacting the role of a seatbelt, but they were also showing that a seatbelt actually is the loving arms of our family, of those who love us. And I value and appreciate loving and caring family and friends. So in that short 60 to 90 second video, a whole slew of emotions came up. And if I analyzed each of the emotions, I would find something about myself. I learned something about myself, maybe what I like, what I don't like, what makes me happy, what makes me angry, and what makes me sad. Now again, some of our emotions are definitely unpleasant to experience. But by looking at them, rather than ignoring them, we learn something about ourselves. And when we run away, we lose out on personal insight. And I think it's through personal insights that aid us in the ability to thrive. if you get nothing else from this, I hope that you remember that understanding our emotions and what they are telling us about ourselves empowers our ability to thrive, even when we experience unpleasant emotions. Now, to understand emotions a little more, let's look at some of the common causes of emotions. I often hear in different studies in psychology and stuff, one of the things that will come up is that thoughts cause emotions. And this is so true. When I'm talking, let's say I'm talking like right now, and I can actually see my audience, and someone gets up and leaves, I could feel hurt because I think, oh, they don't care about me, or they don't care about what I'm saying. Now, it might be wrong. Maybe the person just had to get to the restroom quickly and felt embarrassed to mention that they needed to go. So my hurt feelings were based on my own thoughts. Now, if I had thought, hey, that person may need to go do something important, I would not feel hurt. The same experience is happening, but it's because of the way I think about it that impacts my emotions. So maybe I would feel glad that this person was taking care of themselves, or I'd feel sad that they were going to miss out on my lovely story. But either way, my emotions changed simply by the way I'm thinking about them. Thoughts are things that we often have control over, or we do have control over. So that part, when we deal with emotions, we actually, that's within our power range. However, another one is hormones and brain chemistry. They cause emotions. And I'm going to use first-hand experience on this because for many years I've been on meds for depression and anxiety. But before I went on meds, I did a lot of cognitive therapy. That's going to my counselor, trying to figure out what's wrong with me, how I fix it, how do I get in control of these. I would cry at beer commercials, every beer commercial, every Hallmark commercial. I don't even know if they do Hallmark commercials anymore. And I would get angry sometimes at the drop of a hat, or the drop of a glass hat even, just break, crash over things that like, what's that about? And it was actually a relief to me when I discovered my brain wasn't working like other people's, and that my serotonin levels were super low. And that if I got on the correct meds, my emotional life leveled out and it got easier. So as much as I tried to even use the cognitive thinking to control my emotions, I wasn't able to do that. And so the right kinds of meds were able to help me do that. But even then, in those situations, my emotions are a signal. They were letting my body know that something wasn't working as efficiently as it could be. And the last one I want to look at of things that can cause emotion is circumstances, because circumstances cause emotions too. And circumstances are outside of us, where our thoughts are internal. The hormones and things are also internal, but we don't necessarily always have control over them. With some science and stuff, we're able to do better with that. But circumstances outside of ourselves, we don't always have control over that. And about 10 years ago, I became homeless, and I decided it was the best for my 16-year-old at the time to go live with his father in California. Now, it wasn't a hard decision because that was the best for my son, but it sure was, but it sure felt hurtful. The absence of my son's presence every day was a huge loss, and thus very, very painful. I couldn't change my circumstances like that day. I mean, there's things I moved forward to get out of the situation where I eventually, after 2 years of not having work, being able to find a job and being able to get back into a place. And, now I'm a thriving teacher in the Highline Public School District. And I have a wonderful house, but 10 years later, I have a house. I own a house again. It's exciting. But back then, I was in so much pain. And I could tell myself it was the best thing for my son that he would thrive living with his dad. And that's all true, because it was wonderful for him. It turned into situations where he ended up being able to go to Stanford, and now he's at Columbia. And I don't know if those things could have happened if he'd stayed with me. But the pain that I felt because I had lost this precious time with my son at 16, he's off. Instead of 2 more years where he could go to college, I'd be ready for it. No, that was ripped from me. And that's not something that I could change. And so the emotions, again, are telling me something about myself, that I deeply love my son. I deeply value the time with my son. I deeply value that time. So to say, turn off the sadness, get rid of the sorrow, is not valuing the very things I'm feeling because they're telling me something about myself. So definitely circumstances arise that we cannot control, and they do impact our feelings, like our thoughts that we can change. We can't always change our circumstances. But in all these situations, we can learn more about ourselves. And by looking at those feelings, we get clues on how to proceed to our benefit. So I want to talk a little bit about how to thrive with your emotions. What do you do with them? And I'm just going to say there's two things. One is greet them, and the second one is to shift them. So I think number one is essential. Greet your hi anger, hi sadness, hi depression, hi joy, hi confusion, whatever it is that you're feeling, greet it. Say hi to it, welcome it. Give it a name. If you can give it a name, that's fantastic, because then you know what you're feeling. It's like, what are you feeling? I don't know. Well, no, really, what are you feeling? So ask yourself, I'm feeling, and see what comes out. Own those emotions. Embrace them, because they are yours. Nobody can take them away. They are yours. It's something you have that nobody else can have. They're your feelings. So own them, embrace them. They're telling you something. And then the next part of greeting them is then look at them and say, hey, what are you telling me? What are you telling me? So then that's one of the things that can actually take time, is to looking at what is it telling me, because you have to be introspective. And that's uncomfortable for some of us. But for me, I always thought the thing about being introspective is this is the way that I get to learn about myself, and I actually can be more dynamic. I can actually be able to handle things better. And if something else like this comes up in the future, I know what to do with it. Because sometimes things that are hard don't just happen once. They may happen again and again. And so do we get better at handling those? I laugh now because I've been through some really hard stuff that when I'm at school and at work, the principals or the teachers or something will be talking about something and they're all upset, and it's fine because I get it. But for me, it's like, yeah, that's nothing. And that's my new frame. That's where I'm working from. So I'm not going to invalidate how they're feeling, because that's where they are. But for me, it's often like, yeah, no, that's nothing. For me, that is something we can handle and we can move forward. And emotionally, I'm not caught up like I could have been 10 years ago. So the second part of that is shifting. How do you shift through your emotions? And I say through them because it's not the shifting of like, okay, be gone. It's shifting. What do you do in a healthy way that that addresses them? So one of them is just to change your thoughts, which changes your feelings. I know Laura's got songs around that. I know I have some songs around that, but the idea of changing the way you think about stuff changes your feelings automatically. So you're looking at something like, this is disgusting, and then you can change it, go, you know what, this is a good situation for me to learn something new. And right just then and there changes your emotions. So we actually have a lot of power when you think, wait a sec, what am I thinking? Change the way you think, change the way you feel. The second one is dealing with the circumstances. We can't maybe help what's been thrown at us, but we can change how we address the circumstances, and we can change our, which also will also change our feelings. So for instance, when I was homeless, that was difficult. I was actually couch surfing on a friend's house that was gracious to let me in, but it was very, very difficult not having a job. And I'm like, okay, I don't have a job. My son's got to go. I'm selling everything I possibly own. At the same time, I was making my second CD, and I couldn't get to it because I needed that last $500 or whatever it was to get it in my hands, which I could sell. And so here's my circumstances, right? But I didn't roll over and die. And even though I rolled over and cried, I know that wasn't going to kill me, that I'm going to get back up and figure out what do I need to do next. You get back online and you start looking for jobs, and you apply to jobs, and you get outside and walk every day, even though you're feeling depressed. So there's things that I would do that help change those circumstances and change my frame of mind dealing with those circumstances. So one, changing your thoughts. Second one is changing your circumstances. The third one is just sitting with them. This, I think I got from a therapist that I went to. I did a couple years of therapy after my divorce, just because things were very, very difficult and sad for me. But I would go in with her, and she would sit there, and she just kind of held her hands out like this. And it was her way of saying, I'm holding your feelings. I'm holding and validating your emotions. We're just going to sit with them. And so I was in a safe place with somebody that cared about me, or I paid her to care about me, but still I could feel like she cared about me. And so I'm sitting there, and as she's holding, she just sat there with those hands like that. And I could let stuff out. And I knew it was being honored and respected. And eventually it started to dissipate. And I would say 3 years I cried. I had the worst bags under my eyes I thought would never go away. I realized at the day, like, oh my gosh, they're kind of gone. I got the wrinkly neck now, but the bags are gone that for the 3 years of crying that I went through to mourn the loss of my marriage and other things that came along with that. And 3 years can seem like forever, but you know what? It was the process that needed to take place so that when I was through it, I'm like, wow, I'm on the other side. This is exciting. Or I'm in a different place. And so just sitting with them, even though they're uncomfortable, if you want to do it with somebody that you feel safe with, but sitting with them, they are not going to kill you. They may feel really, really crappy, but you are safe. You just look at them. And if you need to be with somebody, be with somebody. They will eventually dissipate. And the fourth thing is, I say, just move through them. This is often the healing process. When we fight our emotions, they do not go away. When we fight with them, we stuff them down. We get in it, but we're trying to change something that really doesn't change, but welcoming and embracing it helps us move through them. And that's part of the healing process to do those things. I kind of love talking about this subject because I think of all the things that I've been through and stuff, but I realize, you know, so much emotions sometimes can keep us from moving forward. And yet in some ways, they're really our friends when we think of them as signals, simply telling us something about ourselves or our circumstances or something about our bodies. So I want to close with this, in that there's a book, let me hold it up, the book, it's called Onward. It's by Elena Aguilar, and it's about cultivating emotional resilience, specifically more for educators. So me and some of my teachers and my principal are going through this, and that wasn't correct English, but I said it anyway. We're going through that book, and it's fantastic. And she's talking about the brain. At this point, one of the chapters is really on the brain. And she says that resilience, that our brain actually perceives negative stimuli faster and more intensely than positive stimuli. And she says that danger lodges itself in our brain within 1/10 of a second, which is faster than my snapping, whereas a positive experience requires at least 12 seconds to be absorbed. Now, why is this key? Because sometimes they go, God, that person's so negative, or why do you always see the negative? And then we realize that if you realize that our brain tends to do that, that's how we're wired. You think, well, why? Well, it goes back to survival. Humans have survived and thrived because of the ability to see the negative. Doesn't mean wallow in it, but if you see it, you can see what the danger is. It's helped us protect ourselves. So she encourages us to look at the unpleasant feeling and to understand the threat we feel, whether it's real or perceived. We to try to understand it. But I love the turn she does when she says, okay, look at that. Doesn't mean throw it away or ignore it, but look at it. But then look for the light. What can you do now? She's encouraging you to embrace the negative, but then to move towards something positive. And so no matter where we are and whatever we're embracing, there's still something. We can always set that intention. We can set that light, something out there that we can see, that we can move towards, that will help us move out of that. So in just a closing summary, and then Laura's going to come back on, is this is how to thrive through our emotions. You recognize them as signals. Look at what they are telling you about yourself, embrace them, and then make better choices based on that understanding and your intentions. And you can thrive despite your emotions.
From the darkest place to a higher space, calling from every direction. On every single path I have stood strong and cowered fast. What a strange perception. Well, life is demanding, but I am understanding. The best I could was where I stood for higher good and greater truth. Where once it was covered, oh, now I have proof. There's a bigger lesson, one I never expected, rising up from misunderstood. A higher good. Oh. I'm always getting ready on steps that are so unsteady, dancing the same old dances. Ooh, well, I'm never really sure how to fit myself through the door. Well, it's all part of taking chances. Well, life is demanding, but I'm understanding. Best I could was where I stood for a higher good and greater truth. Where once it was covered, oh, now I have proof. There's a bigger lesson, one I never expected, rising up from misunderstood. Yeah. Well, I've seen the road at ground level, but there's a wider view at play. There's a much wider view, and it brings me home to revel on this fine, fine, fine day. For higher good and a greater truth, where once it was covered, oh, now I have proof. There's a bigger lesson, one I never expected, rising up. I am rising up from misunderstood. A higher good, oh, higher good, higher good.
Let's move into a time of meditation and just holding on to that higher good. Just imagine that playing in the background as we move into the meditation. I'd like you to go ahead, or invite you to go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to bring forward into your mind a time when you felt some kind of strong emotion. So I'm going to give you a chance just to think about something that you had some strong emotions, and just pull that forward into your mind. And you're just going to greet it. You're going to welcome it. Hello. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for being a signal. And I want you to give it a name. What is that name? Is it anger? Is it anguish? Is it worthlessness? Is it indignation? What is the feeling? Give it a name. I want you to embrace it. Give it a hug. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for being present with me. I know you're unpleasant, or I know maybe it's good, but I want you just to embrace you because you are mine. Nobody else owns you right now. You are mine. And then I want you to ask, what are you telling me? What do you want me to know? Ask that question, and I'm just going to leave it quiet for a while and see what comes. You know, let stuff come to you. Don't evaluate it. Don't judge it. Just let it come. And whether it's one answer or 10 answers, just let them come. What is that emotion telling you? I'm just going to turn to a point of gratitude where you're grateful that you got that message. What is a message that has been coming to you and you're willing to listen to it, and now you're saying thank you. Thank you for that message. Thank you for letting me see that part of myself. Just sit with it for a second and own it. You are mine. Then we're going to move into shifting that emotion. In other words, what do you need to do to shift that emotion? What thoughts do you need to change? Or thoughts that you want to change? What thoughts do you want to change that emotion? What action might you want to take to move out of those circumstances that are bringing about those emotions? Give it a little bit of silence so you think about the thoughts, the circumstances, or the actions that you're going to take. What do you want to do to change and shift through that emotion? Again, we're grateful for this emotion. We're grateful that we took time to look at it. We're grateful that we can actually do something to help shift from this emotion, knowing that it is in our good to work through emotions, not to hide them, not to run away from them, but to embrace them and to work with them. Maybe we don't want to make any changes, and we're just going to embrace that emotion. Just say, yeah, I'm just going to hang on to this because I need this right now. All that is part of the healing process, the healing of whatever it is that's going on within you, to move to a different place, maybe a different place you want to be. It's part of thriving. Thriving doesn't mean we only have a great life. Thriving is moving through whatever it is that faces us. So in closing, I want you to one more time look at that emotion and say, thank you. Thank you for being with me and telling me something about myself. And now I'm going to release you. And so it is.
Amen. Thank you, Cindy. I love this life. I love this feeling. I stepped into a knowing that's always been. There's nothing greater or more beautiful to be this whole with gratitude and heartbreak makes room for love inside me. My faith all the way from now until filled as high as it goes, fused in inside my soul. This lovely heart, yeah. A while ago, in my eyes, there wasn't a bright side. I was into, well, life had a longing, and so it was. The fire melted my heart into one, and heartbreak makes room for love inside me. My faith, all the way from now until filled as high as it goes, fused inside my soul. Oh, well, marry me to your love. Marry me to your love. Kisses made of light, yeah. Marry me to your lovely heart, to your lovely heart. So here we are. I'm glad to be in love with you for all time, yeah. Well, there's nothing greater or more beautiful. All meet in you with gratitude. Oh, and a heartbreak, oh, makes room for love inside me. My faith, all the way from now until filled as high as it goes, fused inside my soul. Yeah, marry me to your love, God. I'm married to your love. Marry me to your love, and the kisses made of light, oh, your light. Marry me to your love. I am yours, yeah. I am yours now. God, won't you marry me? I am married to your love, and I am yours. Married to your lovely heart, your lovely heart. I am yours, you are mine, and I'm married to your lovely heart.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you, Cindy, for being our guest speaker today. And I understand you're our musical guest next week. Oh, how lucky for us. 2 weeks of Cindy Akana. That's exciting. So we only have one real announcement today, and that is that because I'm a little under the weather, we're not going to do Sunday Rumble. We do hope to resume the fellowship hour discussion next week, but we will let you know. Look for that announcement on Facebook events, and that will give you the information to log on if we're able to have it next week. But that is really really it for announcements today. So just one more time, thank you to our guests. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. Cindy, thank you, Laura, for joining us all the way from Oregon. Why don't we just for a minute together? One more time, we breathe in, we breathe out. That breath in is an inspiration, a breathing in of spirit, a catching of a divine idea. And so we simply breathe in the breath of God together, remembering our unity, remembering our oneness, and going to a place of gratitude because gratitude is that place from which we are most able to accept the gifts on offer. And so we accept this gift of music. We accept this gift of a meaningful message. We accept this gift of being together in community, of knowing we are here for one another, for we are here present as spirit. And so it is, we give thanks. I give thanks for all one of us today. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
Amen.
Well, thanks again, ladies. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And what I know is that YouTube tends to be on a 7 to 10 second delay. So I just sort of fill in the time just a little bit with another thank you, just to make sure that nobody gets cut off. But I'm so grateful to you guys for being here today. All right, Cindy, we'll be in touch. The team will be in touch with an order of service and get you in touch with your musician for next, or pardon me, you're the musician. Okay, we'll get you in touch with our speaker. She does everything. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the Zoom meeting, which will take us offline. And I appreciate, again, you being here for us today. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.